I was fired because of an anonymous email, just one message, no sender, no proof, yet it was enough to destroy the career I'd spent 10 years building, until I discovered the person who sent it was none other than my own sister. Stay until the end of this video to hear how I exposed the truth and reclaimed my dignity. If you believe that truth always finds its way back, hit like, share this video, and subscribe, because the story you're about to hear might make you question your own family. I once believed my family was the picture of perfection, a successful father, 2 intelligent daughters, all working under the same roof. In the company he built from nothing. My name is Emma, the younger daughter, and for 29 years I've lived in the shadow of my sister, Sophia. Sophia is 4 years older than me, beautiful, confident, the kind of person who naturally draws attention the moment she walks into a room. Since we were kids, every compliment in the house seemed to orbit around her. Sophia really is the ideal daughter, they would say. And me, no matter how hard I tried, I was always the second one. Quiet, diligent, dependable, but invisible. I still remember my first morning at my father's company. The office smelled like fresh coffee, keyboards clicked like rain. As I walked down the hallway, people greeted me with polite smiles. No one said it out loud, but I could feel it. They saw me as nothing more than the boss's daughter, here for a little internship. My father, Jonathan Miller, CEO of Miller Holdings, never showed me favoritism. If anything, he was tougher on me than anyone else. He once said, "If you want respect, work as if I'm not your father." I understood, and I did exactly that. Maybe even more. I arrived first, left last, took on the hardest projects without complaint. I wanted to prove I had real ability, that I wasn't just handed a job because of my last name. Sophia was different. She worked in human resources, a lighter role, but one with quiet influence. She knew how to talk to people, how to make them adore her, especially my father. During meetings, he'd always turn to her. "Sophia, what do you think?" While my ideas, no matter how solid, seemed to evaporate into the air, I told myself I wasn't jealous. At least, that's what I wanted to believe. I just wanted to be seen. To hear my father say, even once, "You did well, Emma." That morning, I stood by the window on the 18th floor, looking out at the city waking up. Portland was beautiful in autumn. Rows of honeygold trees outside the building, leaves drifting lazily in the early sunlight. I took a deep breath. Today mattered. The company was about to announce a new position, managing director of the Seattle branch. It was my first real chance to step out of Sophia's shadow. Sophia walked into my office, holding a steaming latte. She smiled, that practiced smile people both loved and feared. "Heard the news. Dad's picking someone to run the new branch. You must be pretty excited, huh?" I smiled back, trying to stay calm. "We both work hard for the company, Sophia. Whoever Dad chooses, I'm sure he has his reasons." She raised an eyebrow and placed the cup on my desk. "Of course, but sometimes reasons go beyond just hard work. You know that, right?" Then she walked away, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive perfume and a slow creeping unease inside me. I sat down and opened my laptop. Meetings, reports, strategy decks, everything was running smoothly. I could do this. I deserved this. If I worked hard enough, I believe my father would finally see me and realize I didn't need the name Miller to succeed. What I didn't know was that only a few weeks later, everything I had built, with sweat, tears, and faith, would be destroyed by a single anonymous email. An email sent by the very person I once called my sister. The all-company meeting was held on a Monday morning, the day everyone liked to call a fresh start. The conference room on the 20th floor gleamed under the glass ceiling. The long walnut table stretched across the room, and the golden reflection of the Miller Holdings logo shimmered against the wall. I sat in the third row, my heart pounding between excitement and dread. My father walked in, his face stern as always. Beside him was Sophia, dressed in a crisp white suit, hair pulled into a perfect bun, radiating the kind of confidence that made people stop and look. I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever be like her. He cleared his throat, placed a folder on the table, and began in his steady, commanding tone. As you all know, our Seattle branch is preparing for expansion. I want someone capable and principled to lead it. His gaze swept across the room before stopping, right between me and Sophia. I held my breath. The two nominees are Sophia Miller, Head of Human Resources, and Emma Miller, Director of Strategic Projects. A murmur rippled through the room. I could feel the questioning looks, the kind that silently said, "Emma? Competing with Sophia?" Sophia smiled slightly and tilted her head toward me. "Looks like we're sharing the stage again, little sister." Her voice was sweet as honey, but underneath, I heard a chill only I could recognize. I managed a calm reply, then let the results speak for themselves. The meeting went on with discussions about the expansion plan. I focused, taking notes on every number, every projection. In my head, the strategy was already forming. How to raise revenue by 20% in 6 months. How to reduce operating costs without layoffs. I knew I could do it. But as I lifted my eyes from my notes, I caught Sophia's gaze. She was smiling. Not at me, but at the executives seated near the head of the table. That familiar smile, soft, charming, the kind that made people want to follow her, the kind that made her untouchable. I looked away, forcing myself not to care. I didn't want to believe this was a competition. We were sisters. Same blood, same dream, working to carry on our father's legacy. At least, that's what I told myself. When the meeting ended, my father asked the two of us to stay. The door shut behind everyone else, and the air seemed to thicken. "I'll be observing both of you over the next few weeks," he said evenly. "Whoever proves true leadership will take charge of the Seattle branch." I nodded in silence. Sophia smiled again, stepping closer, resting a hand on my shoulder, like a kind older sister. "I'm sure you'll do great," she said softly. "But you know, the Seattle branch is a big test. Sometimes, just one small mistake can ruin everything." Her words were light, almost gentle, yet they pierced straight through me. I looked into her eyes. There was something cold there, a warning or a threat. That night, I stayed in the office until nearly midnight. Everyone else had gone. Only the soft light from my desk lamp remained, flickering against the walls, while rain tapped steadily on the windows. Numbers danced on my screen, but my mind was elsewhere, a strange mix of anticipation and fear. I thought about Sophia, about how effortlessly people admired her, how much my father trusted her, and how calmly she had delivered that final sentence today. Was she afraid I might take what she believed was hers? Or was she simply reminding me that I'd always be the naive little sister? I shook my head, pushing the thought away. We were family. We grew up sharing a bedroom, holding hands through our parents' fights, whispering secrets under the same blanket. Sophia would never hurt me. She couldn't. I packed my things and turned off the light. As I stepped into the hallway, I noticed one office still illuminated, the HR department. Through the glass wall, I saw a figure, Sophia. She was on the phone, her voice low, urgent, tense. I paused for a moment, almost knocking on the door, but something held me back. I walked away, carrying a quiet unease I couldn't name. I didn't know that, in that very moment, in that white-lit room, Sophia had begun typing an email that would shatter my entire world within weeks. 3 weeks after that meeting, I thought everything was finally falling into place. The Seattle project was nearly ready for final approval. My presentations had gone well, and a few executives had even praised me. Emma's proving she can handle a branch on her own. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. But on a Friday morning, everything shattered. I was reviewing the final report when my father's secretary knocked on my door, her face pale. Emma, Mr. Jonathan wants to see you immediately. It's urgent. I walked into the boardroom. The directors were already there. The air was thick, heavy with something unspoken. On the big screen, an email was displayed, its subject line in bold letters. Evidence of embezzlement from the Seattle Project Fund. My body went cold. The email came from an anonymous sender, no name, just the signature, a truth seeker. Attached were screenshots of a bank account showing a transfer of $120,000 from the project's fund to an account under my name, Emma L. Miller. They even listed the transaction date, account number, and a note, internal transfer, consulting fees. Every gaze in the room turned toward me. One of the directors spoke quietly, as if trying to stay calm. We verified it. The account number matches your bank records, Emma. My mind went blank. I had never sent or received any such payment. My heart pounded as I looked at my father. He sat motionless, eyes cold and searching, as if trying to decide whether to believe me. Dad, I didn't do this, I said, my voice breaking. Someone's framing me. Sophia was there too. She sat across the table, arms folded loosely, expression serene. When I met her eyes, I caught something, pity maybe, or triumph. I couldn't tell. Emma, she said softly, I know you wouldn't do something like this, but if it's true, you should tell Dad before he loses faith in you. Her tone was gentle, but the sweetness felt poisoned. Each word sliced deeper than an accusation could. I tried to explain. I told them every expense went through accounting and audit. But my father said nothing. He stood, walked to the window, staring down at the city below. After a long, suffocating silence, he said, You're suspended until the investigation concludes. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, this is a setup. Someone's trying to destroy me. He didn't turn around. If you're innocent, the truth will clear your name. But until then, I can't risk the company's reputation. I looked around the room. No one met my eyes. The same colleagues who used to greet me with smiles now avoided me like I was contagious. And Sophia. She walked over, placed a hand on my shoulder, and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, Sometimes you have to know when to step back. That afternoon, I packed my things in silence. The office I'd once been proud of, decorated with project photos, certificates, and dreams, now felt hollow. Each step down the hallway stretched endlessly. No goodbyes, no sympathy. Just the sound of rain against the windows and my heels clicking on the cold marble floor. As I exited the building, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Don't bother trying to prove anything. Everything's already in motion. I froze in the rain, fingers tightening around my phone until they went numb. In that moment, I understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan, and someone had been preparing it for a long, long time. The next day, I was summoned to the director's office. No conference room, no projector, no chance to defend myself. Just my father, the company's lawyer, and a single sheet of paper on the table. A termination notice. The room suddenly felt smaller. Sunlight spilled through the window, reflecting off the cold wooden desk and the silver Miller Holdings logo on the wall, the symbol of our family legacy, now a stain burning into my chest. Emma Miller, the lawyer read flatly. Due to a serious violation of financial policy, the board of directors has decided to terminate your employment, effective immediately. I looked at my father, searching his face for some sign of doubt, even the faintest flicker of belief that maybe I was innocent, but there was nothing. He wouldn't meet my eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and weary. I don't want this to become public. Leave quietly. I'll handle the press. You don't believe me, do you? I whispered. I never took anything from the company. I swear I didn't. He turned away, his gaze lingering on the family photo hanging on the wall, the one where Sophia and I stood side by side, smiling like the world was perfect. Belief doesn't matter anymore, Emma. What matters is that the company's reputation is on the line. I need to contain the damage, now. I stood there, numb. Part of me wanted to scream, to slam my fists on that cold, polished desk, to make him look at me, to remember that the daughter he'd raised for 29 years could never be a thief. But I couldn't. Because when your father stops believing in you, no defense matters. My hand trembled as I signed the paper, my signature slanting unevenly across the page. That single stroke of ink felt like the death sentence for everything I had worked for. When I stepped out of the office, Sophia was standing in the hallway, calm as ever, in her beige suit, a folder in hand. She feigned surprise when she saw me. "Oh, you got called up? Is everything okay?" I looked at her, eyes wet, voice steady. "You already know." Sophia tilted her head slightly, smiling. "Emma, sometimes people aren't ruined by their enemies, but by their own innocence. You trust too easily." The words hit me like ice. It wasn't just an insult. It was a confession. But I couldn't move, couldn't react. I just watched my sister, my own sister, walk away, her heels clicking against the marble floor, like hammer blows echoing through my skull. That afternoon, the company-wide email went out. Due to a financial policy violation, Project Director Emma Miller has been relieved of her duties. The role will be temporarily assumed by HR head Sophia Miller. I read it over and over, feeling the blood drain from my body. My name, once a source of pride, was now a scandal whispered in hallways. My phone buzzed nonstop. Former colleagues, clients, old classmates. None of them asked if I was okay. They just wanted to know if the rumor was true. "Such a shame. I didn't think you'd be involved in something like that. Sophia's handling things so well. She's really strong." I deleted the messages, but every word carved deeper into me. That night, I returned to my small apartment, tossed the keys onto the table, and sank to the floor. I stared at my hands. The same hands that had once signed contracts, written proposals, built a future. Now they just trembled, useless. And then I cried. Not because I lost my job, but because I had been betrayed. My father didn't believe me. The company abandoned me. And the sister I once admired could look me straight in the eyes and lie. Through my sobs, I kept seeing that look on Sophia's face as she left the office. Calm, proud, victorious. Had she planned this all along? Every step? Every detail? So perfectly orchestrated that I never even saw the trap closing around me? I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, staring at the city lights reflecting against the glass. My reflection looked back, pale, hollow, unrecognizable. I had lost everything: my job, my name, my trust, my family. But somewhere deep beneath the grief, something began to stir. Not hope, anger, a cold, quiet anger, sharp as glass. I didn't know what I would do yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let it end like this. 3 days after being fired, my tiny apartment had become both my only refuge and my prison. I couldn't bring myself to go outside. I couldn't open social media. Every headline, every article carried the same name. Emma Miller, painted as a symbol of greed and betrayal. I turned off my phone, my TV, everything. I lived in silence. But silence is never peaceful. It amplifies every sound inside your mind. The echo of voices, the stares, my father's words. The company's reputation matters more. Each memory felt like a hand tightening around my chest. On Tuesday night, as I sat on the floor surrounded by old project files, a message arrived. No name, just a number. If you're truly innocent, check the source of the email. I read it again and again, my heartbeat quickening. No follow-up, no signature, just those few words. But they jolted me awake like a splash of ice water. I opened my laptop, the one I had sworn never to touch again. The pale blue glow lit up the dark room. My fingers trembled as I searched through an old folder, backups of my work emails, saved before my account had been locked. It was a habit of mine, a cautious one, and that habit just might save me. I forwarded the anonymous email to Ryan, a close friend and former coworker, a freelance IT expert, and one of the few who never doubted my innocence. When I texted him, "Can you trace the sender's IP?" he replied, "Give me 24 hours. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass, each drop gliding like slow tears across the city's reflection. I thought about Sophia, her smile, her hand on my shoulder, her cold eyes when she said, "You trust too easily." The fragments were aligning. Piece by piece, they began to make sense. The next morning, Ryan called. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't slept either. "Emma, you might want to sit down for this." "Just tell me," I said. The email came from a device inside the company's network, specifically from the HR department. Only 3 people have after-hours access to that system. I said nothing. He didn't need to finish the sentence. My mind had already filled in the name, Sophia. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. I wanted to scream, to smash something, but the tears came first. Not tears of sadness this time, tears of fury. "Are you sure, Ryan?" I wish I weren't, but data doesn't lie. I thanked him and ended the call. No crying now, no shaking, just stillness. I stared at the IP address glowing on my screen, the digital fingerprint of betrayal, and felt something shift inside me. The pain was gone. All that remained was a cold clarity and a single purpose, the truth. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Sophia. Her voice was smooth, honeyed, as if nothing had happened. "Emma, I just wanted to check on you. Are you doing okay?" I took a slow breath, keeping my tone calm. "I'm fine, really. How about you? Must be busy now, being the acting director and all." She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that dripped with pride. "It's been manageable. I just want to help Dad keep things stable. You understand? Anyway, don't stress yourself too much. Take some time to rest." "You're right," I said evenly. "Sometimes a little rest helps you see who's really standing behind you." Silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Controlled, steady, almost cautious. Then she spoke again, her voice lower. "Emma, don't make this harder than it needs to be." I smiled. Not bitterly, not loudly. A quiet, cold smile. "I'm not. I'm just getting ready to take back what's mine." I hung up, my heart steady for the first time in weeks. No more tears, no more fear, only a plan. Sharp, deliberate, and slowly coming together in my mind. I took 2 days to calm myself. No crying, no outbursts, just silence and observation. The truth was starkly obvious now. The only person with motive, access, and reason to ruin me was Sophia. She didn't just want the position. She wanted me erased from the game entirely. But instead of rushing to expose her, I chose to stay quiet. I knew Sophia well enough to know that if I acted hastily, she'd wipe away every trace. She was clever, composed, and had never let anyone see her hands get dirty. I needed her to admit it herself, and to make that happen, I had to make her believe I had collapsed. On the 3rd day, I called Sophia. My voice trembled like someone hollowed out by grief. A perfect performance, because in truth I'd been living it for days. "Sis, I'm sorry. I don't want to bother you, but I don't know who else to turn to." There was a pause on the other end. Then Sophia answered in that deceptively soothing tone. "Emma, I know this is hard for you, but sometimes you have to learn to accept. It will pass." I forced my sigh to sound utterly desperate. "I just want to see you. Once, to say thank you for still caring about me." Maybe that feigned weakness made her drop her guard. She agreed. We met at the Riverside Cafe where we used to come as kids. That afternoon, the sky was gray. The Willamette moved slow and heavy. The cold wind carried a wet bite. I sat across from the woman who had once been my idol. She wore a black suit, hair in a high bun, her face composed to the point of cruelty. "You look thin," she said lightly. "Things like this will pass, Emma. You're young. There will be other chances." I smiled and nodded. "I know. It's just, I still don't understand how things got this bad." Sophia sipped her coffee, avoiding my eyes. I could tell she was triumphant. Winners always share the same expression, a mix of disdain and pity. Summoning my courage, I lowered my voice as if about to cry. "I just want to know who sent that email. Just knowing would calm me." Sophia tilted her head and looked at me across the rim of her cup. "Some things, even if you know, nothing will change, Emma." Her answer felt like a needle through whatever patience I had left. I gave a faint smile. "Maybe you're right." I stood, pretending to tremble with emotion, and let my purse fall to the floor. As I bent to pick it up, my thumb pressed a tiny button under my phone. The voice recorder started. We left the cafe after nearly an hour. Before we parted, Sophia touched my shoulder and said in that tone only a victor can use, "I don't want to say this, but honestly, you were never cut out for this company, Emma. You're good, but you trust too easily. In that environment, kindness doesn't help. It just makes you a victim." I looked up and smiled. "Maybe you're right. But sometimes the naive are the last to smile." Sophia frowned, not understanding. I walked away before she could ask more. In my pocket, the phone kept recording. Her words, and that insinuating tone safely stored in memory. That evening, I sent the recording to Ryan. "Listen to this," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. After a few silent moments, Ryan exhaled softly. "Oh my God, she just confessed herself, Emma. She just confirmed motive." I stared out at the city lights, reflecting off the wet street. I felt no joy, no gloating, only a cold running down my spine, a metallic, bitter sense that even justice can be sharp. "Ryan," I said quietly, "now it's time she faces what she's done." 3 days later, I got a call from the company's lawyer. His voice was cold, metallic. "Emma, the board would like to meet with you. There's a new information regarding your case." I paused, steadying my breath. "I'll be there," I said quietly. The 20th floor conference room, the place that once felt like my nightmare, looked the same. The long table, the white lights, the smell of varnished wood and stale coffee. But this time, I wasn't shaking. I walked in holding a folder. Inside it, the recording and the IP evidence Ryan had verified. My father sat at the head of the table. Next to him, Sophia, composed as always. Confident smile in place. Eyes that used to feel like home. But under the glassy calm, I could see it. A crack. Something inside me whispered, "This will be the last time she gets to pretend." The lawyer began. "Emma, you said you have evidence proving your innocence." I nodded, connecting my laptop to the screen. My voice was steady. "Yes, and not just to prove my innocence, but to show who really sent that email." Sophia chuckled softly, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Emma, how long are you going to drag this out? The board already reached a conclusion." "No," I cut in, eyes locked on hers. "Because that investigation relied entirely on your data." The room went still. I clicked play. Sophia's voice filled the air. Clear, sharp, confident. In that environment, kindness doesn't help. It only makes you a victim. Then my voice followed. "Sometimes the naive are the last to smile." A spoon clattered quietly against a cup. No one spoke. I played the final clip. "Some things, even if you know, nothing will change." Sophia's voice echoed through the room. The same voice she'd used to destroy me. Now it turned on her like a blade. The lawyer looked up, his tone neutral but heavy. "Ms. Miller, would you like to explain this recording?" Sophia's face went pale. She stammered. This was edited. I never..." The original file has full metadata and timestamps, I said calmly. A verified copy has already been submitted to legal authorities. And this, I slid another document forward, is the IP address of the anonymous sender, traced directly to the HR department. The system logs show your login at 11:43 p.m., the exact time the email was sent. Silence, thick, suffocating. My father bowed his head, fists tightening on the table. Sophia stood abruptly, her voice breaking. Dad, I only wanted to protect the company. Emma wasn't fit. I did it for all of us. My father rose slowly, his voice trembling with rage. Protect the company? By destroying your own sister? Sophia said nothing. Tears slipped down her face, not regret, but fear. I watched her, and for the first time I felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just an empty calm. I hadn't won. I had only reclaimed what should never have been taken. My name, my truth, my freedom. The lawyer spoke. The board will suspend Ms. Sophia Miller pending investigation. Emma Miller's reputation and employment record will be fully restored. My father approached me, slow and unsteady. He looked at me, truly looked, eyes filled with pain and something I hadn't seen in years. Pride. I'm sorry, Emma, I should have believed you. I shook my head gently. I don't need an apology. I just needed justice. I left the room without another word. The door closed behind me, muffling the murmurs and the shifting chairs. Only my footsteps echoed down the marble hallway, soft but heavy with every year I'd spent being overlooked. As I passed the HR office, I glanced through the glass. Sophia sat there, head bowed, her face drained of color. For the first time in my life, I didn't fear her. I didn't even hate her. I just felt sad. After that meeting, I was invited to my father's office. Not the cold, sterile boardroom, but his private office, the one with old family photos on the wall and the faint scent of pine wood mixed with the lingering aroma of the coffee my mother used to make every morning. I paused at the door for a moment before knocking gently. Come in. His voice came, low and weary. He was sitting at his desk, not in his usual suit, just a wrinkled white shirt with the top button undone. For the first time, he didn't look like the powerful CEO of Miller Holdings. He looked like an aging man, a father burdened with regret. Emma, he began softly, shaking his head. I failed you. I didn't protect you. I smiled faintly. It's all right, Dad. I used to think that if I was good enough, no one could hurt me. But sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who push us the hardest to fall. He didn't answer. His eyes drifted to the framed photo on the wall. The three of us, standing in front of the company gates the day I started working there. You can still come back, he said after a pause. The board will support it. I want you to take charge of the Seattle branch. This can be your second chance. I looked at him. For a moment, my heart faltered. That was the dream I had chased for years. The position I had sacrificed everything for. But now, everything was different. I wasn't the naive girl desperate for approval anymore. I had learned that some victories aren't worth reclaiming. I shook my head slowly. Thank you, Dad, but I'm not coming back. Because of Sophia? He asked, voice rough. No, I replied with a sad smile, because I realized I was working for recognition, not purpose. And now, I just want to build something of my own, maybe small, but honest, something no one can take away from me. He looked at me for a long time, then stood and came closer. His hand rested on my shoulder, trembling, heavy, warm. I'm proud of you, Emma. Not because you won, but because you knew when to walk away. I smiled. A real smile. The first in a long time. And I'm proud that you finally see me, Dad. I left the company that evening. The last rays of sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows, spreading a soft gold across the hallway. I walked slowly, not hurrying, not looking back. That place no longer owned me. Outside, I took a deep breath. The city was still loud, people still rushing, cars still honking, but for me, it all felt new again. No one called me Emma Miller, the CEO's daughter. Just Emma, a woman who had lost everything, and in doing so, found freedom. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to Ryan. "Thank you. I couldn't have stood up again without you." He replied a few seconds later. "Welcome back, Emma. True strength is smiling after you've lost it all." I looked up at the crimson sunset spilling across the horizon. In that moment, I knew I had finally crossed the boundary of pain. No longer a victim, no longer someone chasing justice, just a woman who had learned how to walk away, peacefully. 3 months after leaving the company, I opened a small office in downtown Portland. No more fancy signs, no glass-walled meeting rooms, no leather chairs. Just a modest space. White walls, sunlit windows, and an old oak desk. I named the company Luma Consulting. Luma means light. After walking through the dark, I wanted to bring light to others, helping small businesses restructure and rebuild, just as I once did. The early days were hard. No one trusted a person once tied to a financial scandal. I had to make calls myself, send countless emails, and beg for small contracts. But strangely, I felt at peace. No more supervisors watching over me, no one waiting for me to fail just to smirk. Every dollar I earned now was clean, honest, and completely mine. One June morning, as I was making coffee, the mailman knocked on the door. "Ms. Miller, you've got a letter. No return address." I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, the penmanship soft and slightly slanted, a script I had seen thousands of times before. It was from Sophia. I sat down, took a deep breath, and began to read. "Emma, I know you probably don't want to hear from me again. I don't expect forgiveness either. But after everything, I need you to know. I lost more than I ever imagined. When I thought I'd gained everything, I was really losing myself. Father removed me from the board. Friends turned their backs. The press calls me a traitor. I deserve that. But what hurts most was the way you looked at me that day in the conference room. Not angry, not hateful, just disappointed. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't have sent that email, not because I fear regret, but because I never realized that in doing so, I truly lost you. The one who once looked up to me. I hope you find happiness in the way I never learned how. Sophia." I read it over and over again. No tears, no smile. Just a quiet ache like the first summer rain falling on still water. That afternoon, I went outside and stood by the bridge, watching the Willamette River drift by. I thought of Sophia, of Father, of everything that had happened. If the past was a wound, perhaps now it had begun to heal, still marked, but no longer painful. From my pocket, I pulled out a small card and scribbled a few words. "Thank you for writing. I'm doing well. And I hope you will too. Emma." I didn't send it. I tucked it between the pages of my planner, a quiet reminder. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's the strength to move on without carrying hate along the way. That morning, Portland was drenched in sunlight. No gray skies, no heavy rain. Just a clear, golden warmth that felt like forgiveness. I sat in a small cafe across from my new office, a latte in hand, watching the steady rhythm of people passing by the window. On the table lay a folder, the first signed project for Luma Consulting, my own firm, a small business seeking to rebuild after a financial crisis. When the owner signed the contract, he said to me, "We chose you not because of your resume, but because of your eyes. They have the light of someone who's fallen and learned how to stand again." I smiled. Maybe for the first time, I truly understood what strength meant. Not the kind that conquers others, but the quiet kind that learns how to lose with grace. At noon, my phone buzzed. A message from my father. "I read about your company. I'm proud of you, Emma. Your mother would be too." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I simply replied, "Thank you, Dad." Nothing more. Some wounds don't need bandages, just time and silence. And some words, when spoken late, carry even more weight. That afternoon, I walked to the riverbank, the place where I last saw Sophia. The sunset spread across the water like a ribbon of molten gold. I stood there alone, yet not lonely. The wind smelled faintly of damp wood. The rippling water whispered softly, "Everything passes." I thought back on it all. The sleepless nights, the tears, the humiliation, and the moment I walked out of the company with nothing but empty hands. If not for that fall, I would never have known how strong I could be. I had lost my reputation, my career, my family, but in return, I found myself. Night settled slowly. The lights along the river flickered on, shimmering on the water like 1,000 scattered stars. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. No more anger, just peace. The kind I had traveled a long, painful circle to find again. I turned and walked away. Behind me, the river kept flowing. Ahead, the city lights began to bloom. And among those countless lights, I knew my life was finally, truly beginning again.